Have you ever realized how loud the world has become? Everywhere you look, social media, television, even in casual conversations, it's all about who can shout the loudest, who can win the argument, who can make the most noise. But let me ask you this, what if the real power isn't in the noise at all? What if your silence speaks louder than 1,000 words ever could? Today, I want to challenge what you've been taught about strength. Not the strength that roars, but the strength that resolves. The strength that doesn't need an audience or applause. The strength that doesn't scream, but stays still, centered, and unshaken. Yes, I'm talking about the kind of power that comes from silence, true silence. The misunderstood power of silence. Let's be clear, this silence I'm talking about is not weakness. It's not resignation. It's not letting people walk all over you or pretending things don't hurt when they absolutely do. It's not retreating out of fear. No, this is a silence forged in fire. It's a silence that stands tall in the storm. It's the kind of silence that follows deep pain, but rises stronger from it. Imagine someone hurting you, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They betray you, they mock you, and everything inside you wants to scream, to shout, to prove them wrong. But instead, you breathe, you pause, and you stay silent. Why? Because you've realized something powerful. Not everyone deserves your reaction. Not everyone has earned the right to disturb your peace. The echoes of unspoken words. And that kind of silence? It echoes. It echoes in the minds of those who tried to tear you down. It lingers with those who thought they had broken you. It keeps ringing in their ears, not because you yelled, but because you didn't. That silence says, "You don't own me. You didn't break me. I'm still standing, and I've already moved on." Can you feel the power in that? Can you see how silence can shake the very ground of your enemies? More than any angry word ever could? The strength in not reacting. There's dignity in restraint. There's courage in choosing peace when every part of you wants war. Some people, yes, they will try to hurt you, just to see if they still can. They thrive on reaction. They feed off your anger. They push your buttons just to feel alive again, because your energy validates their toxicity. But when you don't give them that satisfaction, when you don't rise to the bait, they lose all the power they once thought they had over you. You become untouchable. And you walk away with your peace intact, your head high, and your integrity glowing like armor. The trapper drama. Let's be honest, the drama is tempting. The clapbacks, the comebacks, the need to defend yourself, it's human. It's raw, and it's understandable. But here's the danger. The enemy, whether you call it darkness, ego, or even your past, wants you to get pulled into that drama. It wants you to stay in that emotional battlefield. Because as long as you're reacting, you're distracted. The enemy doesn't care about your peace. It cares about your attention. It wants you to lose sleep replaying conversations that don't matter. It wants you defending yourself to people who were never worthy of knowing your truth in the first place. And every second you waste explaining yourself to someone who isn't listening is a second stolen from your future. Silence is holy ground. But when you choose silence, that's not just maturity, it's sacred. Silence is holy ground. Silence is surrender, but not to the world, to God. It's choosing to let go, and let grace do the talking. Silence means you've recognized that not every fire is worth fighting. Some flames are meant to burn out without your fuel. Some battles are beneath your energy, your growth, your calling. You've outgrown petty wars, reaction versus response. Now, let me explain something vital. There is a massive difference between a reaction and a response. A reaction is instant. It's driven by emotion. It's impulsive, raw, and often regrettable. It's what your pride wants to say at 2 a.m. when you're still replaying the hurt. But a response? A response is intentional. It's spiritual. It's thought out. It's surrendered to wisdom. Sometimes, the wisest response is no response at all. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Not because you're afraid, but because you've evolved. You're not ignoring the attack. You're rising above it. The true test of maturity. It takes real strength to be silent when every cell in your body wants to roar. It takes maturity to walk away when staying would mean proving yourself to people who don't even see you. There is freedom in that kind of letting go. Freedom in not needing to explain. Freedom in saying, I don't owe you a reaction. I owe myself peace. And what a gift peace is. Your peace is your power. Listen, your peace is your power. Guard it like treasure. Treat it like royalty. Because in this chaotic world, where everyone's talking but no one's listening, your silence is a protest. It's a stand. It's a message. I've mastered myself. I choose not to play your game. And that is a victory worth celebrating. Let them wonder. Let them wonder why you didn't fight back. Let them question why you walked away with a smile. Let them sit in the silence and realize what they lost. Because the truth is, when you no longer feel the need to prove anything, you've already won. You've stepped into a new level, a higher vibration, a deeper clarity. Final word, choose the high road. So, the next time someone tries to pull you into chaos, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this a battle I need to fight? Or is silence the better sword? Because sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is nothing at all. You walk away, you breathe, you rise, and in the quiet of your non-response, they hear you louder than ever. Closing thought. You don't have to clap back. You don't have to explain. You don't have to lower yourself to be understood. Your silence is not empty. It is full of grace, full of wisdom, full of divine strength. And when you finally understand that, you'll never feel the need to scream again. Because silence is the sound of strength. Silence is the language of peace. And silence, my friend, is your loudest victory. Earlier, we talked about the power of silence, the strength it takes to walk away without a word. To choose peace over pride. And to rise above the noise without ever raising your voice. But here's the truth, silence doesn't mean people stop watching. In fact, sometimes, silence draws even more eyes. There are people, let's be honest, who are just waiting. Waiting for you to fail. Watching closely, almost obsessively, hoping that you'll trip up, fall apart, unravel. Why? So they can point and say, see, I knew it. I told you they weren't that strong. They don't want to see you hold it together. They don't want to see you thrive. Your healing threatens their bitterness. Your peace challenges their chaos. And so they wait, lingering in the background like shadows at twilight, just hoping to catch a glimpse of your downfall. But here's the plot twist, they don't get what they're hoping for. Because instead of reacting, you stay calm. Instead of fighting back, you stay focused. While they toss mud, you stay on your path. You stay aligned with your calling, rooted in your purpose. And that confuses them. It disarms them. Because grace, it doesn't argue. Peace, it doesn't scream. Healing, it doesn't perform for applause. You see, you don't owe anyone a dramatic explanation. You're not obligated to make your pain digestible for others. You're not required to retell your story to those who never cared to understand your silence in the first place. And here's something even more freeing, you don't have to justify your growth. Especially not to people who only ever knew the version of you that was still wounded. Still bleeding, still learning how to breathe again. They knew the before, but they're not ready for the after. And that's okay. Because while no one was looking, God was working, quietly, patiently, in the dark places of your soul. The kind of work that doesn't announce itself, but eventually becomes undeniable when the time is right. Your growth, your transformation, your fruit will speak volumes without you having to say a word. And some of the most powerful revenge you'll ever serve isn't loud, isn't public, it's lived, it's embodied, it's peaceful. You live better, you glow differently, you walk lighter, you sleep deeper, you smile more freely. Why? Because you let go. You dropped the weight of grudges that were never yours to carry. You chose healing over hostility. You traded bitterness for grace. You stepped out of the noise and into the stillness. And in that silence, something holy happened. Because this silence, it's not weakness. It's strategy. It's wisdom in motion. It's strength cloaked in serenity. It's restraint guided by revelation. It's a kind of stillness that says quietly but confidently, I know who fights my battles. You don't need to make noise to make a point. When God steps in, He doesn't just restore what you lost, He elevates you. He lifts you higher than you imagined. He doesn't just defend you, He displays you. He doesn't settle old scores, He rewrites the entire story. So hear this truth deep in your soul. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to explain yourself for God to vindicate you. You don't need to prove your worth to those who were never equipped to recognize it in the first place. Often, it's the loudest voices that come from the weakest foundations. But the ones who walk with quiet confidence, they carry something unshakable, a depth that doesn't need attention, a peace that doesn't need permission. Yes, the pain may have come with the purpose of breaking you, and it nearly did, but your silence, your intentional, conscious decision not to become what hurt you, is what preserved your soul. It's what kept you whole. And so, the next time you feel tempted to break the silence, to speak just so they'll hear you, to say something just to feel like you didn't let them win, pause, take a breath, ask yourself, is this really worth the peace I fought so hard to protect? Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Mo dai, ket noi noi dung. You remember what we said before, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay silent. Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom, because silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you're choosing something far more powerful than control, trust. So let this sink in. Silence is not surrender. Silence is sovereignty over your emotions, over your reactions, over the urge to set the record straight. It is strength, but not the kind that boasts or flexes. It is strength dressed in humility, power wrapped in stillness, a quiet that speaks volumes without making a sound. Because sometimes, the best thing you can say is nothing at all. Let your healing be the answer. Let your peace be the proof. Let your silence preach the sermon your lips don't need to deliver. Holy silence isn't empty, it's filled. Filled with grace, with dignity, with the presence of God. It carries more clarity than noise ever could. But here's where it gets even deeper. Sometimes, we carry things that were never ours to carry. We take on burdens that don't belong to us, wounds from others, weight from betrayal, shame from being mistreated. When someone lies about you, betrays your trust, or simply walks away without explanation, there's this impulse inside that says, fix it, explain it, prove your worth, make it right. But here's the uncomfortable truth, you were never meant to carry what only God can handle. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's unfair. But justice was never your burden to force into place. And the kind of revenge that brings real peace doesn't come from your hands, it comes from learning to let go and let God handle what is beyond your control. Because hurt has a voice. Pain has a plan. It whispers, get even, Make him feel what you felt. Say what needs to be said. It makes you think. If I just tell them how badly they hurt me, maybe they'll understand. If I show them what they lost, maybe they'll finally regret it. But that kind of thinking? It becomes a trap. It keeps you emotionally chained to someone who already walked away. It ties your healing to their acknowledgement, something they may never give you. And worst of all, it binds your spirit to people God has already released you from. Let that sink in for a second. When God says, "Vengeance is mine," He's not just telling you to step aside. He's inviting you to rest. He's saying, you don't have to carry the sword. You don't have to be the judge. You don't have to make him see what they did. I saw it. I see you. I see everything. He saw what they did when no one else was looking. He heard what they whispered behind your back. He felt the pain they caused, the wounds they laughed at, the confusion they left behind. Nothing escapes him. Not the betrayal, not the silence, not the manipulation that made you question your worth. And when you release it into his hands, when you let him carry what was never yours to fix, he won't just settle the score. He'll restore what was broken. He'll rebuild what they tried to tear down. He'll protect your heart and redeem your story. That's the difference between revenge and redemption. Revenge is about you trying to make it right. Redemption is about God making it new. One gives you a fleeting moment of satisfaction, an ego boost that fades. The other, it gives you a lifetime of peace. And I know it's hard. I won't pretend it's easy. It's one of the hardest things in the world to be wronged, and still walk with your head held high. To be misunderstood, lied about, overlooked, and still carry yourself with grace. I know what it's like to be wounded in places no one sees. To put on a brave face during the day and collapse emotionally when the world goes quiet. To go to bed with a heart heavy from someone you loved not loving you back the way you deserved. But I also know this. When you try to get even, you start fighting battles that aren't yours to fight. You start becoming like the very thing that broke you. And slowly, without realizing it, you trade your peace for pettiness, your healing for hostility. So instead of trying to prove something, ask yourself, what if my peace is proof enough? What if God's justice doesn't need my voice to shout, but my heart to trust? Because there's a different kind of victory waiting for you, not in the noise, not in the drama, but in the quiet surrender that says, God, I trust you, even with this. We ended before with this truth. Trying to get even will only rob you of your healing. Letting God take control, that's where your peace begins. But what happens when you don't let go? When you try to fight a battle that was never yours to begin with? That's when things start falling apart. You lose sleep, tossing, turning, replaying conversations that should have ended long ago. You lose your peace, like a calm sea suddenly stirred by a storm you didn't see coming. And joy? It gets buried, hidden underneath layers of bitterness, resentment, and silent pain, all because you're carrying a weight you weren't designed to hold. But the moment you say, even with trembling lips and a heart full of questions, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you with it, that's when things begin to shift. That's when the healing process begins, not all at once, not with a flash of light, but slowly, like dawn breaking through the night. That's when your hands come off the wheel, and his hands start moving. Because God isn't just. He's precise. He knows exactly when to convict someone's heart, when to restore what was broken, and when to step in with justice that doesn't scream, but stings with perfect timing. He doesn't just settle scores, he transforms situations. He takes the pain and realigns it with purpose. But here's a reality many people wrestle with. Sometimes, God doesn't remove the storm right away. And you wonder, why not? Why doesn't he step in and stop it all? It's because he's more focused on growing you through the storm than pulling you out of it too soon. That storm is doing something in you. It's refining, it's reshaping, it's revealing. Sometimes, he allows certain people to leave your life, not to punish you, but to redirect you. So that you stop depending on the approval of people who were never meant to walk into your next season anyway. Yes, even heartbreak can be holy. Sometimes, the heartbreak was God's way of rescuing you from something much worse you couldn't see down the road. Because here's a truth we often miss in the moment. What looks like rejection is often protection. That's why it's so critical to let God handle what hurt you. Because when you try to handle it, your emotions get in the way. You say things you'll later wish you could unsay. You act out of pain instead of wisdom. You spend your energy looking backward, when God is standing ahead of you, preparing what's next. And while you're busy focusing on what they did, you risk missing what God is about to do. But when you truly trust Him, fully, deeply, with your whole heart, and lay it all down at His feet, He won't just vindicate you. He'll elevate you. He'll lift you to places where what once wounded you can no longer touch you. Where the betrayal becomes your testimony, not your identity. Some of the greatest blessings you'll ever receive, they come after the most painful betrayals. Some of the most powerful anointings are born from the deepest wounds. Because God doesn't waste pain. He uses it. He uses what hurt you to prepare you. He uses what broke you to build you. He takes what the enemy meant for harm, and He flips it. He turns it into something so beautiful, so purposeful, that when you look back, the pain seems small in comparison to the glory that followed. So don't chase revenge. Don't waste your days looking for closure from people who never gave you honesty in the first place. Don't plead with someone to finally see your worth, when God already crowned you with it from the beginning. Let go. Not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Not because what they did didn't hurt, but because that hurt doesn't get to own your future. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. And when the memory comes back, when the weight of what they did tries to crawl back into your chest, when that heaviness creeps in during a quiet moment, whispering, "They got away with it," or "You should have said more, done more," made him feel it. Pause, breathe, and remind yourself, this battle was never mine to fight, and my peace is worth more than their apology. In the last part, we talked about letting go, about refusing to carry what was never meant to be yours. Because when you give it to God, He doesn't just bring justice, He brings peace. But what do you do when your heart still wants to fight? When your soul still aches for closure? In those moments, when your emotions rise again, when your heart wants to reopen a battle that God already called closed, just whisper this truth to yourself. God saw it, God knows, and God will handle it. Because He will, and when He does, He won't just bring justice, He'll bring joy. A joy that's deeper than revenge. A joy that isn't loud, but steady, flowing like a quiet stream that can't be stopped. Let go of what you can't control. Release what was never yours to carry. You were never meant to be your own defender. That's not your role, that's God's. The best revenge? It's not proving them wrong with your words. It's not making them feel the pain they caused you. It's not forcing them to admit what they did. The best revenge is building. It's building a life so strong, so rooted in purpose, so filled with peace, that their actions can't touch it anymore. It's rising above what tried to pull you down. It's walking forward, not looking back. It's choosing freedom over the chains of offense. And that kind of revenge? That's the kind heaven honors. Because that's not just healing. That's transformation. That's not just restoration, it's a full rebuild of who you are. You see, people may try to break your spirit. They may attempt to destroy your name, ruin your reputation, or shake your confidence. But God never told you to go prove yourself. He never said, go get even. He said, get better. He didn't call you to chase people who walked away. He called you to walk in your calling. So when they leave, when they lie, when they disappoint you again and again, don't stop. Don't turn around to see if they're watching. Don't go back, hoping they'll understand now. Don't beg to be seen by people who chose to look away. Just keep building, because every time you rise instead of retaliate, you reclaim your peace. Every time you choose purpose over pain, you grow. Every time you step forward instead of staying stuck, you become stronger. You become wiser. You become deeper. And here's the most beautiful part. They don't need to know how you did it. They don't need to understand your process. You don't owe anyone a performance. You just keep showing up. Keep becoming. Keep building. And let the fruit of your life speak for you. Let your healing make the noise. Let your joy write the ending. Because here's what people expect when they hurt you. They expect you to fall apart. They expect you to break down. They expect the pain to turn into poison in your soul. But imagine their confusion when you return. Not with a grudge. Not with bitterness. Not with rage in your eyes. But with a smile. With a renewed mind. With a heart at peace. That kind of comeback, that kind of grace, it confuses the enemy more than any revenge ever could. Because you weren't called to stay broken. You weren't made to live bitter. You were chosen. You were set apart. You were meant to rise. And sometimes, yes, sometimes, God uses rejection as redirection. He uses what tried to stop you as the very thing that pushes you into purpose. Remember this, rejection is often redirection. You weren't meant to stay where they left you. You were meant to rise. And sometimes, it's not who showed up, but who walked away, that helps you become the strongest version of yourself. Sometimes, the very people who tried to break you, the ones who doubted you, disrespected you, or walked away without a word, end up being the reason you step into the most powerful, most fulfilled version of who you were always meant to be. Not because they supported you, not because they encouraged you, but because they left, and their absence, it created space. Space that God filled with something better. Something that doesn't fade. Something divine, eternal, real. You need to understand something clearly. Deep down in your spirit. What hurt you does not get to define you. What they said about you. What they whispered behind your back. It doesn't shape your destiny. And what they took from you, whether it was time, trust, or peace, is nothing compared to what God is preparing to give you. So stop rehearsing the pain. Stop replaying the scene in your head. Stop reliving the moment they turned their back. You are still here. You are still breathing. You are still blessed. Start investing in the life that's still yours to build. Because your future, it's not in their hands. It never was. Your life is in God's hands. And He is not done with you. He's still writing, still restoring, still weaving beauty from brokenness. So build a life so strong, so vibrant, so whole, that even if they came back, they wouldn't recognize you. Not because you're pretending, not because you're faking strength, but because you've been transformed. Your tears, they taught you compassion. Your silence, it shaped your discipline. Your loneliness, it grew your resilience. You became the version of yourself that pain tried to keep hidden. And now you're walking in power. Not because you never broke, but because you healed. Success, peace, healing, growth. These aren't just goals. They're testimonies. They are living, breathing evidence that what tried to destroy you, failed. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to explain a single thing. Just live it. Let your joy speak louder than your explanations. Let your smile be the response. Let your consistency shout louder than any rumor ever could. That's what it means to build a life so strong, it silences every voice that ever tried to doubt you. And don't think for a second that God isn't watching. He's not just counting your tears. He's observing your posture. He sees how you're showing up. He sees how you keep choosing grace when you could choose revenge. He sees how you love quietly, led humbly, and stay faithful behind closed doors. And one day, when the time is right, He will reward you publicly for everything you've done privately. Because what you're building, it's not just for you. It's a platform for His glory. A light in a world that desperately needs hope. A message written not with words, but with a life that says, God's strength is real, His grace is enough, and He finishes what He starts. So no, you don't need to get even. You need to get focused. You need to get up. You need to get moving toward the life that is still waiting for you to step into it. Don't let pain become your identity. Let healing become your legacy. Let strength become your standard. And let the life you build, one of peace, purpose, and power, be the final answer to every question they ever had about your worth. You've come so far. You've let go. You've chosen peace. You've stopped fighting for closure from the wrong places. And yet, there's one more layer to face. Because even after the dust settles, there's a pain that doesn't always leave with the people who caused it. It lingers quietly, beneath the surface. In the end, the greatest revenge isn't found in what you say. It's not in the arguments you win, the truths you finally shout, or the apologies you never received. Because some wounds, they're invisible. They don't show up in scars, they show up in silence. They hide behind smiles. They whisper beneath polite conversations. They wait behind your laughter, still aching in the background. Even the deepest hurts have a voice. But their cry isn't for vengeance. It's not about being seen or getting even. No, that voice, buried deep inside, cries out for something far more sacred: healing. And here's the truth. Healing doesn't come from watching the people who broke you suffer. It doesn't come when they finally get what they deserve. That kind of closure is shallow and short-lived. True healing begins the moment you stop waiting for them to feel your pain and start allowing God to restore what they took from you. Because that's where strength is born. Not in revenge, but in healing. You can't move forward if you're still bleeding on the inside. Yes, you can build the house, get the promotion, smile for the camera, post the perfect pictures. But if your heart is still anchored to the pain of the past, it will follow you, silently shaping every step. That pain, it shows up in your conversations, in your reactions, in how you love, in how you trust, in how you walk into a room or pull away without knowing why. And slowly, without even realizing it, pain becomes part of your personality. You start making decisions not from faith, but from fear. Not from peace, but from protection. Not from purpose, but from trauma. But healing, real healing, frees you from all of that. It gives you your breath back, your clarity, your ability to love without suspicion, to hope without hesitation, to dream again without dread. It clears the fog from your soul. It opens your eyes to the goodness of God, right in front of you. Healing isn't weakness. It isn't pretending it never happened. It isn't denying the pain or putting on a happy face just to keep up appearances. No, healing is looking your truth in the eye and saying, yes, they hurt me. Yes, they walked away. Yes, I cried deep, sleepless tears. But I refuse to stay stuck in that moment. That takes courage. That takes faith. And that right there, is what separates the wounded from the healed. It's not about what happened to you. It's about what you do with what happened. Some people spend their whole lives in survival mode. Always reacting. Always defensive. Always building walls because they never had time, or space, to heal. And that's not a judgment. Because some of the pain we carry, it's real. It cuts deep. It carves itself into the most vulnerable parts of us. But here's the thing. If you don't let God heal you on the inside, it won't matter how strong you look on the outside. You'll smile in public but ache in private. You'll achieve everything you once prayed for, and still feel empty. Healing is not about forgetting. It's about being free. It's about walking past the place that almost destroyed you, without bitterness bubbling up every time you remember. It's about hearing their name, recalling the pain, facing the memory, and not flinching anymore. That kind of healing, it doesn't come from pretending. It doesn't come from rushing. It doesn't come from posting motivational quotes or reciting cliches. It comes from God. You can't fake that kind of healing. You can't manufacture it. You can't skip the process. You have to walk it out, with Him. And the good news is, He will walk with you. Through every tear-filled night. Through every memory that stings. Through the moments when you wonder if you'll ever truly feel joy again. He's there, not just observing, but healing, gently, faithfully, thoroughly. So we've learned that real healing doesn't come through revenge, or watching someone else break. It comes when you finally let go of what you never had control over and allow God to restore what you lost. But healing, it isn't just a moment. It's a journey, and some days, that journey feels like walking through fire, with no promise of light on the other side. There are memories that still bring tears. There are moments that catch you off guard. A scent, a song, a silence, that takes you right back to the heartbreak. There are nights you wanted to give up, and days you barely made it out of bed. But here's the miracle. God didn't just heal your wound, He sat with you in it. He didn't rush you. He didn't shame you. He didn't say, "Move on already." He stayed until you were ready to breathe again. Until you could stand again, stronger, steadier, softer. That is the kind of love the world cannot offer. That's the kind of restoration no apology could ever match. It's holy. It's personal. It's divine. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like silence. It looks like boundaries. It looks like no longer justifying your decisions to people who were never meant to understand your path. It looks like choosing peace, again and again, when chaos knocks at your door. Healing doesn't always show up with banners and applause. Sometimes, it tiptoes in during quiet moments. In how you speak to yourself. In the peace you feel when you don't reply to that message. In how you no longer flinch at the things that once wrecked you. That's not weakness. That's not indifference. That's growth. That's maturity. That's God's hand gently shaping your soul. Because you don't heal by watching others hurt. You don't heal by wishing karma would hurry up. You heal when you no longer need their pain to validate your own. You heal when their actions no longer control your emotions. You heal when bitterness no longer writes your story. That's the real victory. Not that they fall, but that you rise. Not that they suffer, but that you survive, whole and unhardened. And listen closely. There is no shame in healing. And there is no timeline for it either. Don't rush your process. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's breakthrough. Your journey is sacred. It's yours. Let God guide you. Let Him restore what people mishandled. Let Him mend what was never meant to be broken. Because no one knows how to lift the burden like He does. No one knows how to soften the sharp edges of pain like the one who formed your heart. He knows exactly where you ache. and He is not intimidated by your pain. You might feel like the damage is too deep. You might be convinced that you'll never be the same again. And you're right, you won't. But hear this. That's not a loss. That's a testimony. Because when God heals you, He doesn't bring you back to who you used to be. He raises you into someone new. Someone stronger. Someone wiser. Someone filled with deeper compassion. You'll love more gently. You'll speak more kindly. You'll walk with greater purpose. Because healing doesn't just repair. It transforms. So today, right now, make the choice. Choose healing. Choose peace over payback. Choose growth over grudges. Choose to become the kind of person who is no longer defined by what broke you, but by the one who rebuilt you. Let your life be the loudest testimony, not to the pain, but to the power of a God who still restores. If you've sown your life with grace, patience, and forgiveness, then trust this: your harvest will be rich in peace, favor, strength, and clarity. It may not come overnight. It may not look like what you expected, but it will come. As for their harvest, the ones who lied, betrayed, walked away, that's between them and God. It's not your burden to carry. It's not your responsibility to monitor their outcome. Your freedom depends on what you let go of, not what they realize too late. The longer you hold on to bitterness, the longer you stay emotionally attached to the very people God tried to free you from. Let that sink in. When you replay those conversations, when you analyze what went wrong, when you dissect every word they said or didn't say, you're keeping yourself shackled to something God already unlocked you from. You weren't meant to understand every betrayal. You were meant to learn from it, to rise from it, to step into something greater because of it. If they walked away from someone who loved them purely, someone who showed up, gave their best, and stood by them, that's not your loss, that's theirs. And maybe it'll take years, but one day, whether in a quiet moment or a storm of regret, they'll look back, and when they do, they'll realize what they lost, what they took for granted, what they abandoned. But by the time that moment comes, you'll be too far ahead to notice. That's the beauty of time. It doesn't just heal, it teaches, it reveals, it brings truth to the surface and clarity to your spirit. Because the truth, it always comes out. God is not mocked. He doesn't turn a blind eye to injustice. He doesn't sleep through your suffering. He saw every tear you cried behind closed doors. He heard every silent prayer. He felt every ache that words couldn't express. And He remembered. He collected every tear. He marked every moment. And in His perfect timing, He will bring truth into the light. Not so you can say, "I told you so," but so you can look back and finally see how protected, how deeply loved, and how completely covered you've always been. You don't have to shout your worth. You don't have to demand they see what they missed. Just live it, be it, become it, walk in it. Let your becoming be the proof. Live so fully, so freely, that regret has no room to visit you, only room to haunt the ones who walked away. Because when they finally see the beauty of what they left behind, it won't be because you begged them to come back. It won't be because you forced them to listen. It'll be because God made it undeniable. So don't wait for the apology. Don't sit in emotional limbo, hoping one day they'll say, "You were right. I was wrong. I see your worth now." Most never will. But hear this. Their silence doesn't mean you weren't worthy. Their absence doesn't mean you weren't valuable. It simply means you've been freed. Freed to grow. Freed to heal. Freed to receive what they were never able to carry or protect. In the end, the people who hurt you will look back. Not because you made them, but because truth has a way of turning hearts. It always does. And when that happens, Let it find you healed. Let it find you happy. Let it find you far too whole to ever want to go back. Let time and truth be your revenge. Let your peace be your power. Let your life say everything your words never had to. When you sow seeds of patience, grace, and forgiveness, your harvest will not be disappointment, it will be peace, favor, strength, and clarity. What they harvest from their choices, that's between them and God. It's not yours to carry. It never was. But here's the truth. The longer you cling to bitterness, the longer you remain emotionally tied to the very people God was trying to free you from. Don't let their choices become your prison. Don't keep hitting replay on conversations that should have ended. Don't torment yourself trying to decode every word, every silence, every goodbye. You weren't created to understand every betrayal. You were meant to rise from it, to learn, to grow, and to step boldly into something greater. If they walked away from someone who loved with pure intention, someone who stood by them, someone who offered honesty and heart, that's not your loss, it's theirs, and it may take years. Sometimes, it takes losing everything to realize what you had. But one day, they'll look back. They'll remember. They'll see the value they dismissed, the light they couldn't handle, the heart they took for granted. But when that day comes, you'll be too far ahead to even notice. That's the beauty of time. It doesn't just heal wounds, it teaches you how to walk without limping. It doesn't just patch pain, it reveals purpose. Time brings truth to the surface. And clarity, oh, clarity becomes your reward. Because truth, it always comes out. Not always loudly, not always quickly, but always faithfully. God is not mocked. He didn't ignore your sleepless nights. He didn't overlook the tears you cried alone. He didn't miss the pain you never voiced. He collected every tear. He witnessed every moment. And in time, He brings it all to light. Not so you can boast. Not so you can gloat. But so you can see, clearly, fully, that you were always protected. Always loved. Even when it didn't feel like it. So no, you don't have to shout your worth. You don't have to beg them to see it. You don't have to prove anything. Just live it. Live so fully, so boldly, so deeply in your truth, that regret finds no place to land in your life. Only room to knock on theirs. Because when people finally see the beauty of what they left behind, it won't be because you dragged them back to it. It'll be because God made it undeniable. So stop waiting for the apology that may never come. Stop holding space in your heart for words you may never hear. I'm sorry. I was wrong. You were enough. Most never say it. But their silence doesn't mean you weren't right. Their absence doesn't mean you weren't worthy. It simply means this: you've been freed. Freed to grow. Freed to heal. Freed to receive what they never had the capacity to carry. And in the end, when the dust settles, the people who hurt you will look back. Not because you forced them to. Not because you demanded closure. But because truth has a way of turning hearts. And when it does, let it find you healed. Let it find you happy. Let it find you whole, so whole that returning would never even cross your mind. Let time and truth be your revenge. Let your peace be the final word. Let your life be the evidence that God restores completely and beautifully. So here you are, still standing, still breathing, still healing, not because life has been easy, but because grace has been enough. You've been through storms that should have drowned you, walked through fires that should have burned you, but instead of breaking, you became, you grew, you forgave, you chose peace over pride, and silence over shouting. You didn't just survive, you transformed. So let this be your reminder. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You don't need anyone to come back and say they finally see your worth. You already know it. God already confirmed it. Let your healing speak. Let your joy lead. Let your life testify. Because the most powerful story is the one you live. Quietly, consistently, with grace. And if anyone ever wonders what happened to you, let the light in your eyes, the peace in your voice, and the strength in your silence be the answer. You are living proof that God still restores. You are not what broke you. You are what healed from it. Speech balloon if this message spoke to you. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone still walking through their healing. Sparkling heart, and remember, you are not alone. You are still becoming. You are still held. If this message touched something deep within you, if it reminded you of your worth, your strength, or your healing, then I invite you to stay. Sparkles, subscribe to this channel to walk this journey together. Here, we choose peace, we grow, we heal, one word, one video, one moment at a time. Because healing isn't a destination, it's a process, and you don't have to do it alone. Click subscribe, and let's keep building a life of purpose, clarity, and quiet strength together. And if this message resonated with your heart, leave a comment below. I'd love to know your story. Your journey matters.